All right. So, welcome to the show. I'm joined today by Bodhi Kenyon. Bodhi, thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, really glad we could do this. And so, for the listeners out there, Bodhi is a lot of things, but included in that, he is a prolific trainer and sort of health and fitness and wellness expert. And he's earned his stripes in many ways. And so I wanted to talk to Bodhi today, get to know him a little bit better, and especially with everybody sort of, many people around the world, and people are in various forms of quarantine or what are they calling it? Self-isolation? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So various forms of physical isolation. Unfortunately, some people are probably pretty emotionally isolated too, but I'm feeling it myself. So I thought Bodhi would be a good person to talk to right now. And we might even get some good information about how to take better care of ourselves while we're kind of stuck at home, and maybe some things that'll carry on even beyond that time. So thanks again, Bodhi. Really appreciate getting together with you today.
Well, thank you, Matt. Happy to be here for sure.
Now this is a podcast, but I get to actually look at you while we're doing this. So I see you're wearing a kukui nut lei, which, having lived in Hawaii for a number of years, I recognize right away. What's the story behind that?
This is it was a gift one of my clients gave me. They went to Hawaii. We live in Japan, so a lot of people go to Hawaii, right? So it's a great place to get away too.
Yeah.
They brought me this gift, and I thought, what a nice gift. And I use it as sort of a. Recently, it's on my door. I've got a bunch of decorations on my door, and I just put it on when I feel inspired and I want some extra Hawaiian power. I feel good in Hawaii. I always feel great there. So that it's a bit of Hawaii with me here in Japan.
Yeah. Aloha. Yeah. So do I. I mean, it's kind of my spiritual home in a way. I went to law school there, and I've lived there twice, and I don't know. Once that place is really, really special. So
it is.
That's cool. So you're drawing from the aloha power.
That's right.
Yeah, I got a bunch of those too. Those leis. Cool. So Bodhi, I gave kind of a poor man's introduction of you, just for our listeners and for me to some degree as well. Can you just kind of explain, what it is that you do professionally, and then we want to learn more about you also personally too, and have some other discussion. So tell us about your business and your passion and who you help and how you do that.
All right. So I have a gym in Tokyo, in central Tokyo. And I think through all of my experiences, I really have a mission to help people. There's something in me that wants to uplift people in some way. And I have the skills. I realize, as a kid, I was an athlete and always spent time outside, moving around. Really interested. It's funny. I mean, I kind of dug into this and really thought, why am I doing this, right? Mm-hmm. And I drew pictures of mussels as a kid. I mean, kids are drawing sharks, animals. I drew mussels.
Any particular mussels that you would draw?
I think it was arms and shoulders, but it was my dad. I think my dad, when he was young, he had a really nice physique. He was a swimmer, lifeguard type. And I was infatuated by that, I guess, I don't know the word in English, akogare in Japanese. I really looked up to my dad. So to have muscles like that was manly to me, I guess. And that was something that, kind of looking into this, wow, I really liked muscles as a kid.
Yeah.
And just, I think through life, I've done a lot of different things. I've done a lot of different types of jobs, lived in different places. And it makes sense that I want to help people. I have a lot of skills, a lot of things that I've overcome that can help people, I think, with mobility, with strength, with endurance, with fat loss, with just feeling better. Mindset. I think that's basically what I do. I help business professionals, executives get into really great shape, which transforms their lives. I think within 3 months, if we can really focus and have a plan together, you can absolutely transform your life.
In 3 months?
In 3 months.
Wow. That's pretty fast.
And it's got to be, I think that's the start of it. And it depends where you're at, of course, on the journey. But that with that, you can create the mindset. Once you have the mindset, you're set.
I was going to say, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just, the transformation isn't necessarily, I've just found in life, like transformation isn't necessarily about reaching whatever it is the image of that end goal is.
Right.
I've really started to see transformation more as a transformation of mindset. That if I'm thinking differently and behaving differently, the results are going to come. But the real transformation is how I'm thinking and the behaviors that I'm now changing. Exactly. I don't know does that resonate with you or?
Completely. I just this morning I was thinking, I was preparing for this talk we have today, and I thought, what is it? What do we do here? And it's health from the inside out. That word came up really strong. And it's like, what does that mean? We have to start from the mindset and then work our way out. A lot of people come for looks. I mean, most of the people that I train come to me for looks, and the looks come once you get the mindset and health in order. Once you get the mind in order, the man's in order, the woman's in order. So, and it starts to change the outside. So
now that's interesting because I have a good friend actually who's in Hawaii, and he told me years ago, I've struggled with my weight for, most of my life, and starting to make more headway now. And it's more about my mind than it is about, anything else. But, eating habits start really early, and I know attachment to sort of feeling comfortable through food or people have different things that help them to sort of feel more comfort in a moment. Some of those things can turn into real bad addictions, but I've just, I lost my train of thought on this, but basically, it's mindset. So, what are you finding when most people who come to you, what are you finding as their biggest sort of, roadblocks to making a breakthrough in whatever way they want to do it?
I think lack of clarity is number one. They just don't know. There's so much information. Even me, looking into developing my skills, like who's, I need a coach as well as I'm coaching people. I need someone to look up to as well. And there's just so much information right now, and people don't know. This guy says this, there's this diet, there's a keto diet, there's a vegan diet. What's the best thing, So and then there's all this information, and I think they don't actually have a vision of where they want to go. They kind of know their problems, but they don't see, or maybe they don't believe they can get to where they want to go. So I think my biggest thing is to get them in touch with their vision and get on one thing that heads in that direction, to get really clear on that one thing that's the most important.
What's an example of that, of a one thing that would matter?
So say somebody comes to me and they want looks. Okay, I want to lose weight. Yeah. But their right hip is way out of whack, and they're having trouble walking. They've got pain all the time. That would be the one thing first to fix that. And maybe I can fix it. I have skills that can help people fix these things. And if I don't, I have people that I can refer them up to that can. That's something that would completely change it. That would transform their life, being able to walk in Tokyo. And there's pain, and that makes people irritated when they're in pain or whatever. So that would be one thing. Or the majority of people come to me for fat loss. It's 80%, I think, of the clients that come to me are focused on fat loss.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with nutrition and a lot to do with movement. And the combination of those together create the fastest results, right?
Right. I think I read somewhere that, when it comes to fat loss, like it's something like 80% of it is about what you eat. Is that, you agree with that, or what would your answer be to that? What percentage of it is what you put in your mouth?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I kind of go back and forth with this. You can change your body fat. It could be 90-10. It could be 90% in the kitchen, right? Like abs recruited in the kitchen. So yeah, you can do it. 90%, you could lose your fat, but the muscle is not going to be, if you're not doing strength training, you won't have the muscle. So
Right.
and you can do that. So yeah, I mean, I would say 85, 90 probably, if you really focused on diet.
So it's like the difference between like skinny and weak or
Yeah.
skinny and strong. Which do you want to be? Is that right? Is that about right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of my biggest things is to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to do business to swing people around and make a lot of money. I mean, I really want to. I'm always digging in to find out what is the most honest approach. And I say, yeah, okay, forget about strength training. Just work on your diet, right?
Yeah.
And I can help people with that. I mean, that's part of what I do as well. But
yeah,
I've had people say a good example of this. A woman comes in, trains with me for 2 years, doesn't really lose much fat, but gets really strong. I can see it. You can see her core. You can see her muscles. I mean, she's strong, right? And then suddenly she decides to, okay, I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose some fat. 2 months later, she's lost five kilos. Looks like a different person. And partly is because she's got a lot of muscle and her metabolism's really in good shape. And she's got a nice base under that. She loses the weight. She looks great. She's hot. Takes time to build muscle. Fat's pretty quick. You can lose fat fairly quickly.
Okay.
Muscle takes time. Muscles is it's kind of like slivers at a time. It takes time.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I'm banking on that because I've built more muscle, but I still got a lot of fat loss to go. So hopefully you can help me with that.
It's a good investment.
Yeah. But let's take a step back, like just about life in general. I mean, what's it like for you? I mean, there's the business side of things, but just personally, you're somebody who's achieved an incredible level of fitness. In fact, I think you said your past involves like strength. What is it? It's like fitness. It's not like traditional bodybuilding where you're looking for bulk. You've competed in fitness competitions. What kind of, tell me more about that. As someone who doesn't know much about it.
So I started with bodybuilding. I was basically bodybuilding. And I was a swimmer in high school and college, pretty serious about that. So I have a base, like my back musculature is really quite good. But I look like a swimmer. I have long arms, long legs. I mean, so I wanted to be this, bodybuilder type, and it just doesn't work with my body type. So I did a physique contest, but the training for that, I hired a coach in the States, and the training is basically bodybuilding. It's higher reps, like 10 to 12, like 8 to 12 reps per set, lots of sets. You do bench press for 4 rounds. You do incline bench press for 4 rounds. It's this type of one exercise at a time. And I built a good structure with it, and did a contest, and I did really well in the contest. This was in Tokyo. I've changed my approach because I'm constantly looking for something that's health-based and more intelligent. And I work with people who are business professionals. So how can I get the most effective training done in the same amount of time? Bodybuilding takes a lot of time. Bodybuilders like to look at themselves in the mirror in general. So they'll spend 2 hours easily in the gym. Not everybody, but people will spend an hour to 2 hours at least. Yeah. I'm looking to get a really solid training in within 45 to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm focusing on something called functional training. I like to call it holistic training because it's looking at the individual from all angles: mobility, endurance, strength, power, so explosive power. Bodybuilders looks. They need to stand on a stage and look great, or go to the beach and look great, or get on Instagram and look great, right?
Yeah.
But I did that.
Instagram's driving so much stuff these days. As if we weren't visual enough. It's like restaurants have to, kind of gussy up their dishes so that they look better.
Right. Exactly.
So people are doing that too.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I think I want to look at, so I guess the story behind this is I did a contest and I'd spent 6 full months fully dieting. And this is measure your macros, measure your protein, measure your fats, measure your carbohydrates from morning to night. I was doing a musical show where I was traveling. So I had to sometimes, walk several miles to find the right store to buy the right food.
Mm.
It's obsessive,
Yeah.
and after all of that, after 6 months of this, my back kind of broke in some way. I have this, a condition called spondylolisthesis. A lot of people call it spondy. Basically,
Spondy.
it's spondy. I mean, something apparently I had as a kid, and it could be exacerbated by swimming because the approach, kind of this
Yeah.
extended posture swimmers are in all the time. But basically, I could barely walk to the station, which is 5 minutes from my house. I couldn't ride a train during the winter. I mean, it was really a bad situation. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to even surf again or run. Couldn't sleep in a bed for 10 months. What kind of woke me up. And so I started looking at other approaches. And I can't say exactly what that was, but I think it was eating too much artificial protein. And it sounds,
what do you mean, like the powders and those? Like what kind of proteins are you talking about?
So whey protein, for example, and this is something that a lot of people promote. I don't think it's terrible, and I can't say. But my form on all my exercise, I have videos and things because I would do that on occasion because I was lifting fairly heavy weights. Form was great, but it's just like my body kind of broke, and I looked at it. What was I doing? And I was eating. In Japan, we have this thing called sarada chicken, it's called salad chicken, and it's just this chicken. It's just full of chemicals. I mean, if you look at it, it's just it's supposed to be chicken, and it's just tons of chemicals. Consistency of chicken. I basically ate that and protein powder, and maybe it's fine. I think I just created a bunch of inflammation in my body. I was eating white bread, like I was on the road, so I had to find carbs that were easy to count, that I didn't have to measure, So I would eat a lot of white bread, and a lot of my diet was processed, probably 80% of it. And
right.
I think because of that, my body sort of broke down, and it broke down for a while, which is good because then, okay, what's the problem here? I go back to nature. Several years later, I'm fine. I'm deadlifting. I'm doing all these things. I'm good. My body's good. So I learned the hard way so I can help people, I think.
It's interesting because the body has a way of communicating to you. Like if you ignore something, if the symptoms get worse and worse until you pay attention. Yeah. And, but I think what part of the problem is for some people, and I'm not ruling myself out of this in some ways, is that if I'm too distracted with other stuff, I may not be paying attention to the signs, that it's giving me, and kind of miss it until it gets really bad. Right. So one of the things about the mental stuff that you and I have talked about in the past is being really present gives you the ability to actually know what's going on with your own body more, and not ignore the signs that are right there in front of you or inside of you that are kind of going, hey, listen to me. And the more distracted, stressed, fast-paced we are, the more, at least in my experience, the less I'm paying attention. And that has a huge cost because it'll just get louder and louder and louder until you're in the hospital going, I'm falling apart. What's going on? I don't know if that resonates with you, but that's been my experience.
Completely. Even headaches. I mean, I had a headache a couple days last week, and I thought, okay, what is this? And I was kind of looking at my training, and I was looking at my posture as I'm sitting. I've been doing a lot more desk work lately. And instead of, it's really easy to grab some sort of pain medication or whatever, to get away from it because it's painful. But it's saying something. It's telling you something. Okay, how can I fix this naturally? What is it? Where is it coming from? Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah. So listen, what's this been like for you? Like this crazy time? I mean, you're a guy who's used to being active. Now you have your own gym, I as far as I know.
Right. Yeah.
So what do? You just go downstairs or go to your gym and you've got a lot of us in other, a typical, like here in Tokyo, most apartments, unless you're one of the lucky ones with a big one, most of us have a pretty small apartment by any standard. So you've got the gym, but I mean, you're dialed in with what a lot of people are going through right now. In New York too, most people don't have a huge place, and it's high density. So it can feel a little, I've just noticed it's been feeling like we can still go out to the store and buy food. And I think last night for the first time, I tried just a couple of exercises on the floor, my wife's much better about this stuff. She gets the videos out and the yoga mat, and she goes to town. I've been kind of feeling inferior to her. She really goes for it. But for me, like, I really miss having a gym to go to.
Sure.
It feels like a loss, frankly, like just getting out of the house, having a routine that I go by. So I don't know, like, what do you do? What do you tell someone who's like me, who's like needing to accept sort of this new reality for the time being? And how do I transition to kind of replace some of that I've lost and not lose the progress that I was making, at least on the muscle building side?
Right. Well, one thing about losing, and this is something that I think guys especially go through, is losing them gains, right? There's like a kind of bro talk. But, the funny thing is about that, I just want to touch on this first. I've tried a lot of different diets. I've had different things that I test. And I went on a fruit diet for 90 days, just fruit, raw fruit.
What kind of fruit? Yeah. What did you, what was the fruit that you ate?
So there were different phases.
Did you get bored of fruit? You're like, enough of these apples. I'm sick of it.
No, it's funny because I didn't. And I had this belief that, okay, this is a way to kind of cleanse the body, and I was following these people, and what I didn't actually, so I would go through phases of like oranges, for example, 5 days of just oranges. And then when they were in season, they're really good, right?
Yeah.
Or red grapes came through. That was like sort of heaven in a way. But little by little, I mean, I lost most of my muscle mass. I mean, almost all of it. I got to being very dizzy, and I thought I can't do my job. People think I have cancer.
Dizzy, you can't walk. I mean, aren't grapes and oranges are like, from what I understand, they're some of the highest concentration of sugar of any fruit. Yeah.
They are. And they're, I needed to test it, and I did, and I found out that it didn't work.
Yeah.
And within probably 2 or 3 months later, I had all my muscle back. So don't worry about that. That's the muscle. If you're eating properly, and I'm happy to I'm going to start putting things up on my Facebook page and Instagram.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I can help you with that.
So at the end, let's make sure we tell everybody where they can go to get that.
Okay.
So just remind me if I forget.
Yeah. And I mean, there are ways to maintain that. So eating would be one thing, to make sure you're just getting enough protein each day. That would be one thing.
I mean, I'm a fairly large person, so I'm 6'2", and well, I won't say the weight, but it's more than it should be. But what would if there is an average, and I don't know how different men and women are, like, when you say protein, if I'm standing at like, people talk about grams, or, when you go online, it's so confusing. You hit it, like, for the average person who doesn't do this for a living, you go online and I mean, you can find literally anything. Like, you should do this. You should, eat cake 5 times. If you want to find a cake diet, I'm sure it's out there. And, I'm not measuring everything super down to the half gram. So if I'm just looking at how much meat, if you're a meat protein guy, what does that look like in a day? Like in chicken breasts, for example, or,
Chicken breasts are surprisingly high in protein. You'd be surprised how much protein you can get out of one breast. I think the breast, we're in Japan, so I'm sorry if people are overseas. We measure things in grams here, so I'm familiar with that. But say a chicken breast is 250 grams. That's probably 250 to 300 grams. It's a lot of chicken. I mean, you could have 2 big chicken breasts, and that could probably fulfill your protein for the day.
Two average size or 2 large chicken breasts in a day would be like a daily amount. You wouldn't need any other protein source.
Right. I mean, and you're going to get protein from other things. I've done a lot of different things I've been a vegetarian for 10 years and I'm not now, but it's animal proteins are by far the best. And people come to me like, oh, Japanese people love tofu and different things. It's like, yes. And if you can get meat, I mean, some people, I can't eat meat. It's okay. Something like Greek yogurt. I try to steer people away from protein powder just because it's overly processed, I think.
Right.
As close as you can get.
What about eggs? What's your position on eggs?
Great. I love them. In fact, I would say eat chicken like I would eat, say, for example, if chicken's your thing, eat chicken breast with eggs, 2, 3, 4. I think as long as you're not mixing eggs with a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of junky food, totally fine. So people worry about too much cholesterol or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
every decade, it seems eggs go in or out. You know, it's like this decade, we love eggs. The next decade, eggs are going to kill you. So I can't, I've had a hard time sorting that out.
Matt, here's the thing with eggs that I've kind of discovered lately, and I love it. I used to use a lot of olive oil. People talk, oh, you need to get a lot of oil and good oils, good oils like olive oil. Instead of that, I do experiment with eggs, and I use the yolks. Because a yolk of egg, like a large size egg, the yolk is about 5 grams of fat. So you get 3 good sized yolks for a tablespoon of olive oil, for example, right? Oh. Those yolks are so rich. You put some salt and some spices in yolks and then put it in a salad. You've got your dressing. You don't have to add any.
Oh, right.
Real food. Olives are processed, right? I mean, the squeezing olives to get that olive oil, how long it's been in that container, we don't know. If you got an egg, it's contained in there, right? You open it up, you got pretty close to.
Now, a lot of people, I hear you, but a lot of people, depending on where you're at, may not feel comfortable with a raw egg.
It doesn't raw. I cook it. I'll have a sunny side up. Yeah, I usually do kind of a sunny side up. You get some liquid consistency out of it, but it's pretty amazing how good. Even 2 eggs, most people are not afraid of 2 eggs. 2 eggs in a salad. Yeah. If you don't overcook the yolk, good.
Sometimes I've liked, some fresh spinach and just sauteed with 2 eggs as a breakfast. I don't know if that's
right.
So back to the point here. So if I'm looking at, I need my protein, and so chicken's great, eggs are great. What are some of the other dietary things to think about?
So I've really simplified things. Here's another diet I just want to tell you because I think it's important. I tried beef, salt, and water for a month because I had heard this it's called the carnivore diet. And I heard so many people talking about it, and I would have said it was, when I heard it, I thought, oh, this is really stupid.
Beef and salt.
Beef, salt, yeah, that's it. And they talk about inflammation. So I had a frozen shoulder, which is basically my shoulder. I couldn't externally rotate. I couldn't put my arm into a gel, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, just really bad. So I heard that this carnivore diet stops inflammation in the body. And that was part of the reason I did the fruit diet. They talked about it. It didn't help, actually, the fruit diet.
Yeah.
So I try this. Okay, I'm going to do this, and I go get the beef, and you can eat beef liver as well. But anything within a cow, basically. And I had no addiction to food. I mean, if one thing I learned from that, 0 addiction. 1 month, my wife's sitting next to me eating all kinds of good stuff. She's a fruit eater. She's a fruit girl. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, I don't want to eat anything that she's eating. She's eating dried fruits and all kind of nuts and stuff that I love. And I mean, milk and lattes and all that stuff. And I would just look at it unamused, uninterested. So that from that point, that's amazing. And also gas. I'm going to be 100% vulnerable here. I'm just open.
Yeah.
I'm going to
gas. Okay. We're not talking about petrol here, folks. I have a feeling.
We're talking about
gastrointestinal
to the max, bro.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just been something that I've had digestive issues since college that I can remember. And when I went on that diet, I had no gas at all. And I thought, there's something to this. I had not a vegetable for a month and a half, probably. Not one vegetable. And I thought, I feel better than I have in a long time.
Weird.
So weird. So my diet now is I'm pretty high on the meat. I throw some eggs in there, and I'll have some greens, and that's basically my diet. And my mind is.
What about the other vitamins and minerals, though? Don't you get? I mean, I read somewhere where it's like your plate should have a lot of different color on it, and then you know you're doing great. So peppers and onions and all the different things. Is that? What do you think about that?
You know, and I should have said I'm all for the peppers and the onions and tomatoes and avocado, whatever. I do that, but in general, like probably 80% of my diet is some sort of meat, eggs, and greens of some sort. So, I mean, just basically a non-starchy vegetable. And that all falls into it, you know, the onions, the garlic doesn't do so well with my stomach. But yeah, onion, greens, peppers, basically veggies that aren't starchy.
That are not starchy. So your starchy ones are going to be your potatoes, your, taro root, stuff like that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Sweet potatoes.
Sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
I do love a good sweet potato, though.
And that's fine. I mean, I'm not against that at all. And I'm sort of testing this. I'm trying to see how lean I can get on this type of a diet and still have high energy. I mean, I'm working good 14 hours a day, and I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
I work with clients. I'm doing, because now with the virtual stuff with Tokyo's, you know, people are wanting virtual sessions. So I'm doing the sessions with the clients instead of just training them. Right. So
yeah.
My mind, my body, everything is, I think, performing, I'm on high performance right now. So it's all working.
So we've covered a little bit about diet, and there's a lot. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's tons more about that. Let's talk about, just real quick, let's get into kind of you can call it the spiritual side, or just sort of depending on, what you subscribe to, sort of spiritual mindset, mindfulness part of it, managing your mind. And then a few tips on exercise at home would be, I think, super useful for people stuck at home like me.
Okay.
Like us,
right?
Yeah. I mean, millions and millions of people around the world are kind of stuck at home right now. So how do you manage what do you like to do? I mean, and it's different for different people. I do find that's different. Like when I talk to people about, I've never been a prolific meditator, although it's got huge benefits. So what I found is there are meditative activities that give me some of the benefits of what, I think one of the biggest things that in my own experience, it's held me back from trying things sometimes, is I have a rigid definition of what that's got to be based on media or, somebody who's a guru or somebody who's really good at something. If I can't do it like that, then I don't know how to do it. And then I found, if I just sit quietly and breathe for 1 minute, that's actually pretty useful. So I don't know. That's been a breakthrough for me, mindset wise, to try different things. It's like yoga, right? Yoga means a lot of things to a lot of different things to different people. Actually, not everyone's sweating in a auditorium with 100 other people. There's, So I don't know. I'm just curious what works well for you in terms of managing your mindset.
I think this past year, I started writing my goals out last December 2019, writing like 10 goals every morning. And I've been on and off with that. And I was writing them out. I got really clear. And then my wife and I went to Florida to visit my parents, and I didn't get enough sleep. And I just kind of lost it emotionally. And I couldn't catch up with the times there. And I just kind of like, just lose it emotionally. I did.
Losing it emotionally in Florida. I think you're not the only one who's lost it emotionally in Florida.
I was trying to, and it just...
No offense to our Florida friends.
I love Florida. But yeah, I just, and it was a good thing. I try to look at these things. Okay, I lost it emotionally. What was it? It was basically like lack of sleep. I couldn't catch up on the flight and the time zone, and then I was back, and it was the same thing that's coming back.
Yeah, right.
So what it did, and this is just something that I've been doing lately that's helped me a lot, and I've been doing this from the very beginning of January, is write. And when I work with clients, I like to have the clients choose an affirmation. And some people look at affirmations as a bit woo-woo, but it really does something with your mind. In a really positive, it's brainwashing and positive.
Totally. Yeah. No, that's right. It's you actually need to have healthy brainwashing to do anything big, because your brain is we've already been brainwashed. We already have tapes that are playing in our heads, all of us. And a lot of those tapes aren't working for us very well. Right. So I had someone explain it to me one time. They said, you can't erase those tapes. Those tapes are hard. The hardwired stuff is hardwired, that negative self-talk or just the stuff that works against you. But what you can do is write new scripts.
Right.
And if you write that script and write over it many, 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 many times, you might have a new script that sort of is dominant. And so mindfulness for me has taken on a role of sort of managing the quality of my thoughts by repeatedly overwriting negative ones with different ones.
Right.
I don't know. That's the way I kind of relate to what you're saying. It's good stuff.
Yeah. It works. And there are days you don't want to do it. I spend, and this is, I spend probably 20 minutes every morning when I get up, I write these things out, and I write something every morning in a certain way, and I write something every night in a certain way. I write it over and over. And then I'll write what I'm grateful for. So in the morning, I'll write all the clients that I meet that day.
Yeah.
The teachers that I'm learning from, I'll write their names. And I write my wife first. She's right by me, and I write her full name. It's interesting, but I'll write her full name out, and it does something. And when I get emotional, or times like this when you get the stresses on, or we're out of our comfort zones, there's something in there that I'm grateful for these people. I wrote your name this morning on that stone.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. You inspire me, man. You do.
I appreciate it. And likewise, what I'm hearing here is it's just reminding me, my work and my passion that I've finally really come to a place in my life where my career and everything I'm doing is in alignment with, is about the power of human relationships and the high growth potential of relationships where both people are genuinely working towards the benefit of the other, for a win-win, for, exponential growth all around. Because if you and I win together, we're actually going to help our spouses, our friends, our colleagues. We're going to help them win too. And, so when you're talking, it's just really bringing up to me the power of relationships in my overall health and well-being, achieving my goals. I think the first time you and I met, I said, I've made a bunch of progress in these different areas, but I know that I can't get to the next level without additional help. And for me, it's not just a transaction between myself and a provider. I just, when I meet you, I don't go, this is Bodhi, he's going to give me a service, I'm going to pay him some money.
Right.
I don't see it as transactional. There is that part of it, if that's a part of it, right? But to me, it starts with looking at what our relationship potential is what do you get out of it beyond the money from working with me?
Right.
And if we can figure out what that frequency is, then we don't just get a money exchange with maybe some benefit on my side. We get something much greater. And in our case, we're doing this podcast, we're working on some other things. So I'm just wondering, like, working with clients as you do, what's the intersection between sort of the human relationship aspect of life and, overall fitness? There must be an intersection there. What are some of the things that you've noticed? I don't know if they surprised you at all, but that not just, there could be your relationship with your client, but then how their overall fitness achievements, how that impacts or is impacted by their human relationships.
It's huge. So kind of social network, is that what you're saying? Or
yeah, yeah, all of it,
It goes both ways, I think, like,
yeah.
So I've had clients in the past that got to a certain level and then their significant other didn't like it because they were reaching a level that made the other feel uncomfortable and the other didn't want to change.
Right. So
then that person started failing. And it's hard to talk with people about that because you need to have people in your network supporting your cause, right?
Right.
So on that level, that it goes that way where somebody can actually make a lot of progress. And if their social network if they're not in a supportive environment, they will fail. It's almost guaranteed.
That's interesting. So if I want to start a transformation, actually one of the first things I can do, I'm just reflecting back now as you're talking, one of the first most effective things I can do is think about my support network.
Definitely.
My spouse, my friends, could be parents, could be siblings, could be, colleagues. And think about who I might want to talk to about the journey I'm about to go down and kind of get there, let them know some things are going to be changing that might impact our relationship.
Right.
And get their buy-in from the beginning.
Very important.
I guess I hadn't thought of it. I thought of it in other ways, but that's actually a very definable step that would have a big impact.
Huge.
Yeah.
And if you have a relation, I just knowing you, Matt, you can get deep with people and you can get really honest and open and have a conversation with, those people, the key people in your life and say, this is what I'm going to do. If I do these sort of things, call me on it. Because a lot of people have we all have self-talk, but actual verbalizing something like, well, I've always been that way, or I have clients that come in after having really strong conversations about not self-talk, but self-talk verbalized. Like, I've been chubby all my life anyway. So this doesn't help. Right?
I'm just big boned.
Exactly.
Right.
We're getting people on board with that, and saying, hey, that doesn't, you told me, make a pact with them, that you can be called on that.
Well, it must be hard. Look, in a spousal relationship or a, significant other relationship or people with whom you live. You I don't know, when you start making a change to what you're going to eat, for example, it has such a huge impact on the people around you. If you stop eating carbs for a while, it's like suddenly like there's this gap between you and whoever you eat with, like they're eating their rice or bread or whatever. And you're like, you got your pile of broccoli and your boneless, skinless chicken breast that you've tried to over season and is a little too dry because you don't know how to cook it yet. And I don't know, there's something, it's almost like if you eat something differently, I felt like there's this emotional cavern that opens up. It's like, so you got to figure out how to bridge that. So even if you're eating differently, that there's some kind of like something that brings you to, we're weird that way. I think humans, at least it's my own experience. It's like, you got to find other ways to be connected. Even if we're constantly looking for deviant behavior,
right?
Just deep in our psychology, who looks different, who's doing, that's built in.
Right.
And so even the common food we eat becomes this common connector that can be a proxy for other kind of relationship bridging things. So it really puts us, the muscle we need to build here, Bodhi, is what I'm coming to is
right.
relationship skills, actually.
Right.
That's one of the big muscles we need to build to build the other kind of muscles.
Definitely.
In a way that's going to be healthy all the way around.
Right.
And sustainable.
Well, I think some people too, and I mean, I'm talking about myself. So you can sometimes when I get on a path of some way, okay, I've decided this, I'm all in, I'm doing this.
Yeah, right.
To get a bit almost arrogant, like, well, why aren't you doing this? That doesn't work, right? That's
right.
You tick people off, and then where you can say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I really like your support. I support what you're doing. It's totally cool, but I'm not going to eat carbs for the next 90 days or, whatever it is, the decision you make.
That's leadership, actually.
Right.
That's real leadership. I mean, a leader is supportive of others and has a clear vision of what he or she is trying to do.
Right.
And ultimately has to say to those around them that, look, this is where I'm going.
Right.
And I would like you to come with me. And here's what you're going to get if you do. You can't force anyone to do anything, ultimately. Even if you're paying them, you can't force them.
True.
I mean, people can resist in so many, 1,000 different ways of resistance. Right. So it really, the intersection of not just relationships, but leadership in that intersection as well. That through my transformation of my mind, my body, getting fit, it actually makes me a better leader in more ways than just, having more energy, which is the obvious one. I want more energy. A lot of people do, I'm sure. But the process I go through of transforming myself in all the ways I need to, including my thinking, in order to succeed there, transfers directly, as we're talking now, it's so clear to me, transfers directly over into my leadership role in all aspects of my life, including work.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. We only got a little bit of time left.
Sure.
And I'm feeling it's funny, the longer we talk, the more excited I'm getting about stuff. I'm like, oh man, I'm not doing enough. So that's a tape I got to shut down. Yeah. But can we just give a taste of some tips about the home workout with no equipment? Assuming someone has we don't have a room for barbells or anything in here. So what could I do if I had nothing else, but I just wanted to feel, I wanted to work out my body a little bit on a daily basis? What are a few things I could do?
So it's interesting because I've got clients that don't want to come in right now, but they still want to train. So I've been thinking about this because I have a gym that's stocked with the kettlebells and, all these implements, right? Small and large.
Yeah.
Thought, how can I give people the same quality without that? I'm outside of my comfort zone, right?
Right.
Outside the box. So I've been doing things, body weight. You don't really need anything to start. And I'm going to share some things. I'm going to put some things up so you guys have some things to work with. So, but say, for example, a lunge, right? Something where your body's in a 90-90 position, right? Where you kind of lunge like a kneeling position with one leg out. Or I'll make it even more simple, a squat. So here's something you could do that you could visualize this and do this right now. Do a 90 degree squat against the wall, basically. Yeah. So putting your tailbone, your upper back and your head against the wall, your hands down at your side, not on your knees, supporting yourself. Okay. And hold that as long as you possibly can. And make sure that you got like a pillow or something under you that you're not going to collapse and smash your butt on the floor. And see how long you can hold that. And you'll get to a point where your body will completely peak out. Your legs will be shaking. You just can't hold it anymore. Yep. Every day, you would maintain strength in your legs. I mean,
wow.
And that's the biggest thing. You got your butt in your legs. You got your butt, your hamstrings and your thighs, which is most of the muscle in your body.
Wait, I missed the leg position. So I got my back and my shoulders against the wall. My arms are down, palms facing the wall, touching the wall. Is that right?
Yeah, we're just down in a neutral position, kind of facing you can be against the wall.
But they're against the wall though, yeah?
Yeah.
Or it doesn't matter.
you just don't. I just don't want people to put their hands on their knees because they'll use it as a lockout.
Yeah. And you're bent down how far?
About 90 degrees.
So 90 degrees. Okay, like you're sitting on a chair.
Yeah, I mean, you could use you could just do this hovering above a chair, but a lot of people, it's best if you can use a wall because then you can get your posture perfect. Where your entire from the back of your head to your tailbone is basically flush against the wall, right?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. You just hold that as long as you can before your body goes, I'm done.
It's an isometric hold. I mean, and that's to tell you something where people could get it, and you just get a timer, get some kind of your iPhone or whatever, and set it and see how long you're going to hold it. If you do that once a day and try each day to increase that by a second or more,
right,
you can do it, and your legs will get sore. You'll feel it.
Wow.
And that's one step. And I would say that's lower body, right? That's a squat pattern. That's one pattern for the lower body. And on the opposite side, if your wrists are in good shape, shoulders and elbows, you could try, say, a top of a push-up position. So this is called an extended plank.
Yeah.
And just hold the plank the same way. And just make sure that you're not arching your back. Just hold an honest plank. Plank meaning a board. So basically your head, your back, your butt, and the back of your legs are in a line. You might need a mirror to look at this. As
flat as you can be, right? Yeah.
And as soon as it breaks, stop. You either lose your form or you lose your power, and you come down.
Wow.
Those two things. I mean, these are isometric holds. You'll get stronger, and you can maintain. Yeah.
I mean, should you do the push-up too, or do it in a?
If your form is good, if you understand about, I think push-ups, you can hurt your shoulders if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So something that was kind of like a no-brainer where you're using a lot of muscle tension.
Yeah.
And your body will shake. I mean, you'll feel it. And if you're doing a proper plank, you're going to feel it in your legs. You're going to feel it in your core. Squeeze your butt. There are a lot of points to it. If done properly, can give your muscles a good run.
That's awesome. Those are two incredible tips. So up against the wall with your back, 90-degree position like you're sitting, and then a plank position like you're doing a push-up and just holding as long as you can for upper body.
And please think safety. I mean, one thing that I do is I'm 49 years old. So I mean, safety is always like 20 or 30, you don't think much about it, but make sure when you're going to do the wall thing, get something under your butt, that
supports. Yeah.
No,
that makes sense. Wow. Great tips. So if somebody wanted, we covered a little bit about managing your mind. You had a tip about writing essentially a gratitude list, but it's more than that, writing out the people you're seeing or things that are people and things that are meaningful for you in a day. What a great technique. I'm going to give that a shot. We talked a bit about diet and getting enough protein, not eating processed foods. And we talked about a couple of exercises you can do in your home with nothing but you and a wall and a floor, which I think most people have. Unfortunately, some people don't have that, and that's a sad reality. But for those that do have a wall and a floor and a body that can do it, that's some pretty useful stuff, man. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Hopefully we can all get through this time together. But I know at a minimum, I'm going to be able to do more stuff at home just from this conversation. I hope some other people are too. Tell our listeners, if they want to get more stuff like this, learn a little bit more about you. You're a great guy. I mean, you're generous, you're open, you're willing to get vulnerable. So for other people who are looking for that kind of person to connect with, wherever you are in the world, really, can't recommend Bodhi enough. Where would they go to find you on social media, on the web?
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for those kind words. The name of my gym is LFBX. So it's look, feel, be extraordinary. So that's where the X comes from.
Okay.
So you can find me on Facebook. We have a gym page, which is LFBX.
Yep.
Space GYM. You can find us there. We have a website, which is lfbx-gym.com.
Yep.
A lot of that's in Japanese right now. But any of those places, if I've said anything that resonates with you, ask me. Just ask us, and anything you ask will help other people. So please don't hesitate to ask. I'm Bodhi Kenyon, BODHI KENYON. I have a Facebook page there as well. So yeah, any way I can help,
So English speakers and Japanese is because you live in Tokyo. So you service a lot of Japanese clients, but not exclusively. You have other clients who are non-Japanese. And do you do anything virtually? Are you a virtual trainer?
I am recently.
Yeah, right. Everyone's becoming virtual everything.
I think it's very important to have somebody that really understands. I call this holistic training. The training that I give to people, I could call it functional training.
Sure.
That's useful, or holistic, because I can look at the entire person. And a lot of times you can grab a program here and there, and it might not address something that you need addressing.
Right.
It might not address in the order that you need addressing.
Right.
So that's where coaching is really important. So yeah, I do virtual coaching for sure.
So they can look you up at your website, which was LFBX.
That's it. LFBX hyphen GYM. GYM.
GYM. Yeah. LFBX hyphen gym.
Yeah.
And that's .com.
Yes.
Yep. Or they can, I've done it before. You just Google Bodhi Kenyon trainer and you'll get it. Or Facebook, you can find Bodhi on Facebook. English or Japanese is fine. Bodhi, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for the useful tips and sharing a bit of your story. And I'm just really grateful for this time with you today. And I hope it helps some other people too.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I really, any time with you is great time for me. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, let's do it again. Okay. Let's do it again down the road, and we'll update, see how we're both doing, see if I've been able to plank for a bit. All right. Well, we'll see you soon. And thanks again. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, man.